Like COVID's origin, investigate mask efficacy. How refreshing it will be for everyone once it is no longer necessary to remember to carry a mask with you when going to the grocery store or a favorite restaurant. Fortunately for much of the country, mask mandates and other COVID restrictions have been fully lifted. People are getting back into their pre-pandemic routines, and thus far it does not appear that a new normal will take over how we live going forward, as was previously predicted. What is silly, however, is how political the return to normal has been. When conservative-leaning states dropped their mask mandates months ago, Democrat politicians and the media predicted an explosion of cases and deaths. This didn't happen, and in fact cases ended up rising in states that still had mandates in place, such as in Michigan. As has been happening since the beginning of the pandemic, the media has used case numbers to push a narrative that even one new case should instill fear in society, but when their predictions don't go as expected, they simply ignore the story and move on to their next fear-mongering attempt. What never seems to happen is any attempt at hindsight or retrospective. Fortunately, as the pandemic continues to fade away, there will be ample time for this type of reflection by society and the media, especially given the dullness of the Biden administration, or perhaps more accurately its lack of transparency and minimal interest by the media for in-depth reporting on it. As is already happening regarding the origins of COVID, with the mainstream media and liberal politicians finally taking the plausibility of a lab leak in Wuhan seriously, there needs to be a sincere effort to examine whether certain pandemic protocols were necessary and effective. This includes a thorough examination of the efficacy of mask wearing in reducing spread, as this particular response to COVID has morphed into a sacred display of ideological conformity for one half society and a symbol of oppression for the other. Empirical evidence points to little to no effect from masks to reduce spread, as cases continued to rise precipitously in areas after mandates were imposed. Also, while some initial scientific studies claimed to prove the effectiveness of masks, since then the media has not been trumpeting such claims as backed up by evidence. In fact, more studies have been released that challenge the use of masks, but the media simply goes on declaring that masks work, without any supporting evidence. It is this type of disingenuous reporting that we must continue to challenge, both now as we reflect back on the pandemic, and in the future, unless we want baseless propaganda and coercion to continue to divide society. Do you still wear a mask when going out in public? Vote now at pollred.com.